Shalom. This week's Torah portion is Parashat Emor, beginning in the book of Leviticus, chapter 21. Open up your heart and let me ask you an honest question. Are you unnerved by the passage of time? From the dawn of human existence, man has had an uncomfortable relationship with time. It's a dimension of existence that has a profound impact on how individuals perceive their lives and their mortality. Throughout history, philosophers, poets, and scholars have grappled with the concept of time, highlighting its relentless passage and the deep feeling of existential vulnerability it evokes in we humans. The passage of time is a constant reminder of human mortality. The ticking of the clock, the changing seasons, and the aging process all underscore the finite nature of life. As William Shakespeare wrote in Sonnet 60, "Like as the waves make towards the pebbled shore, so do our minutes hasten to their end." According to some existential philosophers, the awareness of death and the passage of time is central to the human experience. They teach that understanding our temporality, that is, our existence as beings moving towards death, is what gives life its meaning and urgency. But this awareness can evoke anxiety and fear, as noted by existential psychologist Irvin Yalom, who highlights that the dread of death can overshadow the human psyche. But while the incessant march of time can induce a morbid outlook, it also offers an opportunity for personal growth and wisdom. Embracing the passage of time involves a shift in perspective from fear to acceptance and purposeful living. Man's inherently complex relationship with time, marked by an awareness of mortality and vulnerability, is addressed and remedied by Torah in this week's portion of Emor. Chapter 23 of our portion deals entirely with the cycle of sanctified time, as manifest in what Torah calls Hashem's appointed festivals. Thus, this chapter 23 begins with the verse, "Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, these are Hashem's appointed festivals that you shall designate as holy occasions. These are my appointed festivals." Through the divine commandments to observe the festivals as outlined in this chapter, beginning with Shabbat, man has the ability to sanctify time. The festivals are called mo'adim, which literally means meetings. These special days are man's rendezvous with God in the dimension of time. And these days are called mikra'e kodesh, holy occasions. But these Hebrew words can also be understood to be saying they call out holiness. As the circle of the year turns, these appointed times of Hashem, beginning with the weekly Shabbat, and each festival at its time, literally call out holiness. Through the element of sanctified time, these days have the potential to elevate our consciousness and free us from that helpless feeling that we're at the mercy of time. In this very chapter, chapter 23 of our portion, we also find the uniquely uplifting divine commandment regarding the counting of the Omer, a special period of time that we are currently observing during these very weeks. The commandment to count the Omer is found in verses 15 and 16, where we read, "And you shall count for yourselves from the day after the Sabbath, from the day when you bring the Omer of the waving. 7 weeks they shall be complete. Until the morrow of the 7th week you shall count 50 days, and you shall offer a new meal offering to Hashem." Now the word Omer is a unit of dry measure, here referring to a measure of barley, which in the time of the Holy Temple is harvested on the night of the 16th of Nisan, after the first day of Passover, at the conclusion of that day. And that day is called by our verse the Sabbath, because Passover and Shabbat share the same spiritual root. And then it's brought as a wave offering in the Holy Temple the next day. God commands Israel to literally count off each day and each week during this period of time, marking the 49 days, 7 complete weeks between Passover and the upcoming festival of Shavuot, festival of the first fruits, and the time of the giving of Torah at Mount Sinai, the Sinai revelation. From the language of the verse's wording, "and you shall count for yourselves," our sages derive the idea that each and every individual should count. And the great Hasidic masters in the tradition of the Holy Baal Shem Tov emphasize that "for yourselves" means that this process of counting is literally for you, that there's something beneficial here to aid the individual. So what is the purpose of the count? The classic Sefer HaChinuch, the Book of Education, explains on a simple level that this count is an expression of joyous anticipation, like someone who's looking forward with great enthusiasm to an important life cycle event. So we begin counting from the day following the first day of Pesach, which is the day that Israel left Egypt, the day we began our journey towards receiving Torah at the Sinai revelation. On Passover, Israel was redeemed physically, but the Exodus itself is not yet the end of the road. Freedom is not simply liberation from oppression. True freedom is spiritual redemption, and that's what takes place on Shavuot, at the giving of Torah at Mount Sinai. This counting symbolizes a journey from physical liberation to spiritual fulfillment, highlighting the value of each step along the way. The Zohar describes this period as a time when we're able to draw down divine light and energy into the world. Each day corresponds to a specific combination of the Sefirot, the divine attributes, creating a spiritual ladder that ascends towards higher levels of holiness. The Arizal, Rabbi Isaac Luria, teaches that the counting of the Omer involves the rectification of specific spiritual energies, making this period of time a time for intense personal and spiritual growth. It's a calling to every individual to prepare the vessels, so to speak, needed in order to receive the divine light once again, leading to the ultimate revelation of divine wisdom on Shavuot. So on a simple level, which is not that simple at all, the Omer represents the concept of the countdown, or rather the count up to Shavuot, and our renewed acceptance of Torah at Mount Sinai. So there are many deep levels of understanding this commandment, as we've actually discussed and learned together over the years. But open up your heart in the deepest way, because now I would like to return and simply focus on a simple idea, also not so simple, that which with we began our talk today, namely our problem as human beings with time. Because the deepest truth is that the counting of the Omer also conveys a fundamental principle that relates not only to these 49 days, but to the significance of counting our days every day of the year, all throughout our lives. In Psalms 90, verse 12, King David asked the Holy One, blessed be he prayed, "Teach us to number our days so that we may gain a heart of wisdom." The language of his prayer indicates that this numbering of our days is clearly not just a simple counting, but is directed towards a very specific purpose, as he prays in this verse, so that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Thus, King David is requesting that God teach us how to do this. Help us, grant us a heart, meaning the capacity to understand, of wisdom for this counting. That is, teach us how to attain the understanding of wisdom, for this is what is needed in order for us to number our days correctly. They say time is money. You can thank Benjamin Franklin for that one. But the metaphor of time as currency is so deeply ingrained in all of us that we're constantly using expressions like spending time, which implies that time is a resource to be used wisely, wasting time, suggesting that time is a limited resource that should not be squandered, saving time, indicating the need to make an effort to use time efficiently, and investing time, advising us to use time in activities that yield future benefits. But as everyone knows, all the money in the world can't buy time. And also, we're also used to saying things like, I have no time, or I'm out of time, or why is time passing so fast? Where is all the time gone? And the particularly killing time. Who in their right mind has time to kill? And of course, we all waste time, as if we have a surplus of it and we can afford to squander it. So many famous people's last words are reported to be so much wasted time. And lost time, Ben Franklin again, is never found again. So we all ask ourselves, how can we make better use of our time so that we can look back at the end of the day and feel that it was well spent? So that we can look back at the end of our lives and know that it was well spent? When we don't use time properly or feel that it's passing too quickly, escaping us, we need to examine our relationship with time. Time is not supposed to cause us to suffer. God did not intend for people to be victims of time. We are enjoined to be masters over time and not its slaves. But the rule is, throughout life, what we don't learn to control controls us. Sefirat HaOmer, the counting of the Omer, is a profound exercise in personal growth that extends beyond the mere act of counting days. It teaches us how to relate to time altogether and how to reshape our relationship with it. It teaches us how to live mindfully by presenting us with an alternative take on time. It's a spiritual practice aimed at deepening our appreciation of time and the unique value of each day, divinely designed to enhance our understanding of the preciousness of time. In addition to counting the days up to Shavuot, Torah wants to teach us that every day of our lives is special and important. Each new day is a new and unique segment of our lives. The concept of this counting transcends this particular period that we're in now, because it's not merely about counting days, but about making each day count. So the days of the Omer count are a prototype for the whole year. By teaching us to relate to time as a precious resource and use it to refine our character and deepen our spiritual connection, we can transform our lives and prepare ourselves to receive divine wisdom. Thus, our sages teach that these days are the key to the entire year. So open up your heart deeper than ever before in your whole life. It's no coincidence that the front of a clock where the time is displayed is called the face of the clock. As we gaze upon the clock face, watching each second going by that won't be back, it's like gazing into a mirror. The clock is a reflection of ourselves because our lives are made up of time. It's like someone gets angry with someone who wants them to do something, so they say, "I'm not made of time, you know." And actually, we are made of time. Or more correctly, we are made of our choices. What does it really mean when a person says, "I don't have time for such and such"? Everybody has the same 24 hours in a day. But the thing is, it's a question of choice. What do I choose to do with my time? And that's where the confusion lies. The truth is, there's enough time, but I need to decide what's important. In Genesis chapter 24 and verse 1, it's written, "And Abraham was old, advanced in years, and Hashem had blessed Abraham with everything." The Hebrew expression translated here as advanced in years is ba bayamim, which literally means that he came in days. Not with days, but in days. The great sages tell us that this informs us of the deepest secret in the world. Our days are an entity that we create. They are not ethereal, they have substance and they stick around. They accompany us to the next world, the world to come, called the world of truth. And there, they testify to how we spent them, which is to say, they testify either for us or against us. Abraham literally came in his days. In his days, he wore his days like a royal robe. In the next world, one cannot enter there without a garment, but the garment is only made up of the days that were created with good deeds. Without such deeds, without such days, no garment is created, and no admittance is granted. Thus the commandment to count the Omer is so much more than a countdown to Shavuot. It's an exercise in appreciating the value of time and the preciousness of each day. It teaches us that each day is a unique divine gift of incomparable value, worthy of being counted with a special number, like a cherished treasure. And thus it aids us in cultivating a sense of gratitude for each day. With Hashem's help, the counting of the Omer should inspire us to be sensitive to the importance and potential to fill every moment of our lives with meaning and make a reckoning of all our days, not only in this season, but all throughout the year. Every day brings us opportunities for growth and improvement, and thus each day that passes on the calendar of our lives is of utmost importance. We must count it and pay attention to it, asking ourselves every day, did I use this day to grow closer to my Creator? By engaging in the practice of the counting of the Omer with intention and mindfulness, we can transform our perception of time and develop a more proactive approach to self-improvement and how we spend our days, helping us towards leading a life filled with purpose, growth, and spiritual fulfillment. Our daily count reminds us of our task in this world, to refine our spiritual essence, to subdue our material nature, to grow closer to each other, to become the people that we were meant to be, and to fill the world with the light of our acts of loving kindness. Thank you for watching this week's Jerusalem Lights Torah portion, and a special thanks to our online community, whose generous support enables Jerusalem Lights to share Torah for everyone. Shabbat Shalom.